Alright guys, hope you're all keeping well, hope you're all keeping safe. So, the Phase 2 PTS Patch Notes are currently live. Just wanted to note this part here quickly. The PTS Phase 2 will actually go live at 3 PM CEST. It was originally put in the patch notes for 2 PM, so it's another hour and a half. So as of me making this video, it's about an hour, 2 o'clock basically UK time until it goes live. But we're going to have a look at over all this stuff. It says here changes include balance for exotics, loot quality, and further adjustments to gear and weapons. If you enjoyed this one, drop a like down below, leave a comment. You can follow me on Patreon if you want to support me outside of YouTube. And with that said, let's get straight to these notes here. So, looking forward to this. It says, welcome back to the Title Update 10 public test server. As a reminder, the PTS is an in-progress build, meaning certain gameplay improvements, bug fixes, and balance decisions are not final and are subject to change. It's a good thing they are subject to change, because the Bulwark Foundry pretty much ruined the first phase of the PTS. Please also be aware that some text changes, e.g. wording on talents, might not be correctly reflected in the UI. We invite you to be part of the TU10 creation process and highly encourage you, etc. For the second phase of the PTS, we're hoping to hear feedback on these topics in particular: new gear and exotics balance, weapon damage, overall balance, and loot generosity. I like hearing this stuff. If you have thoughts on other aspects of the game, please do not hesitate to let us know. The following content will be disabled during the PTS, which is the Operation Iron Horse, which is the second raid, and then Season 2. So attributes. Incoming repairs no longer increases the amount of armor repaired by armor kits. Talents, all gear set effects. Developer comment. Incoming repairs was always meant to be the defensive attribute equivalent to repair skills. So that players could further enhance the amount of healing they receive from their skills or the group's healer. Unfortunately, the underlying code prevented us from differentiating between alternative sources of armor repair, such as those from talents and gear sets like Foundry Bulwark or Firewall's unique armor kit effect. We wanted to address this during the development of Warlords of New York, but chose to postpone this fix in order to deal with the higher priority issues at the time. We underestimated the extent to which this attribute could affect the new Warlords meta, and failed to predict the severity of degenerate gameplay it would cause when combined with certain talents or gear sets. Yeah, to say that a little bit. It's important to stress that this is not a PvP only issue or an instance of the PvP environment affecting PvE balance. Incoming repairs was comprised in both aspects of the game and needed to be addressed, especially considering this update coincides with the release of the new raid. Not addressing the issue would mean forcing ourselves to balance all existing and future gear and talents around the knowledge that players could potentially, very likely, double the amount of repairs they receive, which stifles creativity and effectively limits player choice. And yes, I have to agree, this did become rampant in PvP and stuff like that, so it's good that they've made these changes. And then we got Sidearm, so it looks like we're getting some buffs here for Sidearms. The double barrel sawed-off shotgun optimal range reduced from 8 meters, reduced to 8 meters from 3 meters. So we've had a 3 meter reduction in the range on that. 5.86 Magnum, 68.8% damage increase. The Police 6.86 Magnum, 68.8% damage increase. Maxim 9, 23.5. And I'm not going to go through all these guys, we'll be here all day, but as you can see, the list here. The smallest increase we got was the Disarus, I don't even know how to say it, 5.9% damage increase, and the Officer's M9A1, 6.3% damage increase. Exotics, the Bighorn, damage increased by 11.2%. Added functionality that provides additional headshot damage, 4 talent is now. When scoped, switches to semi-automatic fire mode, dealing 450% weapon damage with each shot. New headshot grants plus 1% headshot damage, stacks up to 50 times, resets to 0 at full stack. So you could potentially get plus 50% extra headshot damage if you're consistently hitting headshots with the Bighorn. This could become quite powerful. If this is enough of a damage increase, this could become quite powerful in PvE, because it doesn't look as though it resets stacks if you miss shots, so it's just when you get up to 50. In PvP, it's probably not going to be as good because it's much harder to hit, semi-automatic PvP headshots in PvP. Eagle Bearer, damage increased by 7.8%. I've heard a lot of people saying they'd like this to be reverted back to how it was before, but that's not going to happen. Chameleon, damage increased by 32.8%, which is a huge damage increase, and there's an added functionality that retains your current buffs to the next combat encounter. When combat ends, 4 talent is now. Hitting 30 headshots grants plus 20% critical hit chance and 50% critical damage for 45 seconds. Hitting 60 body shots grants 80% weapon damage for 45 seconds. Hitting 30 leg shots grants 150% reload speed for 45 seconds. And new buffs refresh when out of combat. We got the Bullet King, damage increased by 2.6%. I think the Bullet King was quite strong anyway, so a little bit of an increase in the damage is good. Nemesis damage increased by 11.1%. That's again, I mean, I've seen some builds of the Nemesis in the phase 1 of the PTS, and this is going to become really strong with certain builds. Liberty added functionality to provide extra damage if you're trying to keep stacks. Full talent is now new. Hits grant plus 2% weapon damage, stacks up to 30. Oh wow, it's going to be strong with a shield. Headshots consume all stacks, repairing your shield for 3% per stack. So you could potentially repair 90% if you're up to 30. You could potentially be doing plus 60% damage, okay, and then you'll hit a headshot essentially, and you'll get plus 90% repairing your shield. So pairs really well with the shield. Regulus increased initial bullet accuracy. I've not used any of the new stuff here, so I don't know how this is going to change things. Change Regulus third attribute bonus from damage to armor to headshot damage. Okay. Merciless Ruthless damage increased by 12.5%. Added functionality to provide extra non-explosive damage as well. Full talent is now. This weapon fires on trigger, pull, and release. If both bullets hit the same enemy, gain a stack. At 7 stacks, shooting enemy deals new 900% amplified damage and creates a 7-meter explosion, dealing 1,200% weapon damage, consuming the stacks. It'd be nice to test these out, although for me, unfortunately, I don't actually have these weapons yet, these exotics. Never been able to get them. Haven't really farmed for them, to be honest, but when I have played and stuff, I've not been able to get them through the missions required. But yeah, it'd be nice to see how this works out. Diamondback, damage increased by 7.7%. Text updated to clarify a new target isn't marked until after the 5-second buff. Okay. I find that the Diamondback, no matter how much you increase its damage, really, it's just, I don't know, it doesn't feel that usable. Lullaby, Sweet Dreams, damage increased by 11%. Lady Death, damage increased by 18.9%. That's a huge buff there to Lady Death, which is good. Chatterbox increased by 16.7%. Ninja Bike Messenger knee pads added functionality to add bonus armor. Full talent is now performing a cover to cover or vaulting, reload your drawn weapon new and grants plus 25% bonus armor for 5 seconds. Okay, so that's going to become a lot more viable in TU10. Dodge City Gunslingers also added functionality that makes your hit do headshot damage. Full talent is now. When your pistol is holstered, gain a stacking buff every 0.3 seconds up to 100. When you swap to it, your first shot consumes the buff and deals 10% damage per stack. This deals headshot damage to anywhere you hit. Okay. BTS U-Gloves change of functionality, no longer grant group or raid-wide overcharge unless you're at skill tier 6. Added functionality to provide Hive skill haste. Full talent is now new, grants plus 50% Hive skill haste per skill tier. So you could get 90% skill haste if you've got 6 tiers. They've changed the second talent. Detonating a hive refreshes your skill cooldowns and grants overcharge for 15 seconds. If at skill tier 6, this effect also applies to all allies. Allies receiving this effect are unable to benefit from it again for 120 seconds. So that's just your allies. If it's you, you can benefit from it right away, which means that if you're detonating your hive and you're getting the overcharge for 15 seconds, plus you're getting this extra 90% skill haste, the chances are that your hive's going to come back very quickly. So you're going to be able to use this overcharge quite often, I imagine, especially just as a solo player. Obviously in a group it's 120 seconds. Sawyer's knee guards added functionality to continue to provide bonus damage bonus move for a short duration. Full talent is now cannot be staggered by explosions. Increases total weapon damage by 3% each second you are not moving. Stacks up to 10 until you start moving. All stacks lost at 10 seconds after moving. Okay. Mantis, change Mantis' third attribute from critical hit chance to damage to targets out of cover. That's going to make this really strong, and the reason I say I've not played with a Mantis, but anything that's got damage to targets out of cover is strong because it's multiplicative damage. So this is going to be, I imagine, quite strong. The Ravenous, when an enemy with defensive primer stacks on them is killed, you now gain the benefit of those stacks without needing to detonate them first. Okay, that's good. Chest talent, Headhunter. Buff icon now shows how close to the damage cap you are at. Now properly caps damage to your current weapon when you weapon swap, and the damage cap lowered with new functionality. After killing an enemy with a headshot, your next weapon hit within 30 seconds deals 125% of that killing blow's damage in addition to it. Damage is capped to 800% of your weapon damage. New, this is raised to 1250%, lowered from 1500 if your headshot damage is greater than 150%. So it looks to be maybe a slight nerf to the amount of damage you can actually do. But as you can see with Headhunter, this is going to be a really strong talent if you're using the marksman rifle. And then we got the Future Perfect talent. Fix an issue of overcharge lasting indefinitely if you weapon swap. Is intended for the buff to remain when weapon swapping, just not indefinitely. Perfect version on mechanical, animal numbers adjusted, weapon kills grant +1 skill tier for 19 seconds from 18 seconds, sacks up to 3 times. I'm not quite sure what 1 second is going to do. Weapon kills at skill tier 6 grant overcharge for 15 seconds, overcharge cooldown 90 seconds from 80 seconds. So a slight nerf there to the overcharge cooldown. Gear sets, Negotiator's Dilemma. Oh, we got a lot here, guys. Damage value transferring between players was not scaled properly or correctly. Previously, transferred damage was higher than the initial damage on the original target took. Damage transfers on the initial bullet that marks a new target. Fixed some UI feedback bugs. Add a 15-minute range cap for the damage transfer whilst in PvP. So they've I think they've fixed Negotiator's Dilemma at this point. People are going to have to test whether this 15-meter range is still that much of a problem, but generally that looks to be a fix. Foundry Bulwark, healing of offset in PvP was not scaled correctly, should now be in line with damage taken. Okay, I believe that Foundry has now been fixed as well, so for both PvP and PvE at this point. Future Initiative, backpack and chest armor now have a utility gear mod instead of defensive. Good, I heard a lot of feedback about that and it makes sense because it is a utility gear set. Increase 2-piece repair skills bonus from 15 to 30%. Increase 3-piece skill duration bonus from 15 to 30%. So this is some good changes, because what you'd find is that you'd get the backpack and chest, and then you'd have to get RNG to get the actual attributes you want, because you'd always have to roll away the mod slot. So for a utility one, so that's good. Hardwired, increased 3-piece repair skills bonus from 15 to 30%. Nice little buff. Aces and 8s, 3-piece headshot damage bonus is now additive rather than multiplicative. That's a nerf. Increased 3-piece headshot damage bonus from 20% to 30%. So that's a buff there. So I'm not sure how that will work out. Brand sets, Alp Summer Armament, increased 1-piece repair skill bonus from 15 to 20%. Murakami, the 2-piece repair skills bonus from 15 to 20%. Richter and Kaiser, 3-piece repair skills from 15 to 20%. Providence, increased the 1-piece headshot damage from 10 to 15%. Okay, nice little buff. Ariada Holdings, increased 2-piece headshot damage bonus from 10% to 15%. And Grupo Sombre, headshot damage bonus from 10% to 15%. So there's a little bit of a buff to repair skills and headshot damage here. Excuse me. And what I think this is indicative of is what we can expect from the raid. Is that we're going to need stuff that's going to be able to repair us quickly. We're going to need stuff that's going to fight off status effects, which we've already seen. And I suspect that there might be an instance where we have to do headshot damage. And that's why there's buffs to these. But also it could just be that the developers want you to, go more into headshot damage as opposed to everyone just running crit hit chats and crit damage, and giving more of an incentive to actually hit headshots. If you can consistently, then you're going to get this increased damage. Skills Reinforcer Chem Launcher UI has been updated to clarify that the initial heal only affects allies and not the skill user. The functionality has not changed. Balance PvP talents efficient, reduced specialization armor kit bonus from 100% to 50%. That's good because that was very strong. Versatile, reduce the amplified weapon damage bonus for SMGs and shotguns from 35 to 25%. And I presume this has come off feedback on the first phase of the PTS, and I suspect we'll get more changes with phase 3, which I suspect we're going to be getting. Skills, increase striker drone damage by 10%, assault turret damage by 20%, and stinger hive damage by 75%. PvE. Okay, this is the juicy stuff. We've seen players' concerns about higher difficulties becoming too easy. Looking at game data and player strategies, NPCs in Legendary and Heroic are often too easily trivialized using status effects. In these top difficulties, we are proposing to raise NPC resistance to status effects to prevent them getting indefinitely locked in status effect reactions. This is a first pass and we'll make adjustments for TU10 where needed. Okay, so I'd like to hear your feedback on that. I have seen some very strong status effect builds that are very strong in these activities. What they don't want to do is nerf CC builds to the point that people don't use them, but I guess what they want to do is balance it so that NPCs are just not stood there whilst they're taking tremendous amounts of damage and they literally can never move. Increase NPC resistance to status effects. No changes were made to story, normal, hard, or challenging. These remain at previous levels or values. In Legendary, base resistance for NPCs is now 40%. Previously it was 25%, so there's a 15% buff. In Heroic, Base resistance for NPCs is now 25%. Previously it was 0. They have no resistance to status effects. I did not know that. No, this is additive with the existing veterancy resistance scaling. The veterancy resistances have been Veteran 20, Elite 25, and Named 35. Okay. For greater clarity, this means that for legendary NPCs, the resistances are default, red bar 40%, Veteran 60%, Elite 65%, and Named 75%. Hunter's base resistance is now 40%. Previously it was 25%. Note, since all hunters are named NPCs, their resistance is 75% due to the above mentioned veterinary resistance. Note, status effects have a minimum required duration of 0.5 seconds. So, if the NPC's resistance causes this effect to be less than that minimum duration, the status effect will not be applied. This is the same way status effect resistance works for players. Good to know. Loot. Item power. Updated item power distribution to have a better spread between minimum and maximum values for all difficulties. Increased minimum roll item power for field proficiency caches and DG caches, clan caches and season caches. This is good because those caches were trash. Difficulty scaling. Regular loot from loot containers in missions now scale with mission difficulty. Targeted loot from loot containers in missions now scales with mission difficulty. Good. Loot pools. Warlords of New York brands can now also show up as targeted loot in DC, including Dark Zones. Okay. Known issue on PTS for all Tier 5 players, not all targeted loot pools may be available at the same time. Crafting, increased minimum and maximum crafting results. Added weighting to crafting results to have better spread between minimum and maximum. Removed final World Tier 5 crafting bench upgrade as its power increase is now redundant. So some little changes here to loot and stuff just to make stuff maybe feel a little bit more rewarding, a little more powerful. I personally would have liked to have seen more when it comes to like drops in Legendary. I don't play Legendary, but I know people that do, and one of the things that they complain about a lot is the fact that they don't feel like they get enough rewards, or when they do, they don't feel as though the rewards are good enough, and I'm not really seeing a whole lot about that. You could say here that item power distribution to have better spread between maximum for all difficulties is that. I guess we'll have to see how that works out. The Bighorn, I'm hoping that the changes made to the Bighorn are good enough for the Bighorn to be an exotic that people want to actually try and get. Because, you know, most people who play Legendary, they're there to get the Vanity, but more than anything, they want to get the Bighorn. There's also nothing here about the Bighorn being the only exotic you can get in Legendary for the first time in an exotic drops. One of the main issues with Legendary is that, especially with the Bighorn, is that an exotic will drop and there will be the occasion where it's not the Bighorn. And I don't think that should be the case on the first run especially. So I personally think that if an exotic drops, it will always be the Bighorn, but there's an opportunity for another exotic to drop at the same time, and that way you're guaranteed to always get the Bighorn, but you're also, there's always this thing that, oh, I might get something else on top of that. That's what I think they should do, but they've not said anything about that. And there looks to be some bug fixes here, and you guys can read through those. Bug fixes are great, and in the phase 1 of the PTS with some good bug fixes, there's a lot here. This is good news. But that's it for today's video, guys. Thanks very much for watching. A lot of stuff here. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a phase 3 of the PTS, especially if they don't get enough feedback this week, and I think there has to be, because I think the first week was pretty much swamped by the Foundry Bulwark, just everyone clowning everyone with it. But that's it. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and until the next one, Epic out.